Do you ever wonder what it would have been like to be Mark Messier in the 1994 Stanley Cup playoffs when he guaranteed that they'd beat New Jersey in Game 6? Do you ever wonder what it would have been like to make that guarantee and then lose? It's kind of how I feel right now. What's happening, everybody? Justin, Bridgewater's Finest on YouTube, Blockbuster_guy on Twitter, and we're back with more NHL Stanley Cup predictions for the 2018 NHL playoffs, and holy cow, that last round. Oh, not the quality of the hockey. The games were great. My picks were literal physical shits. I don't think I've ever done this before. I legitimately went 0-4. I picked all 4 series incorrectly. I had Boston beating Tampa. That didn't happen. I had Pittsburgh beating Washington. That didn't happen. I had Nashville beating Winnipeg in Game 7. So I was either going to get that series perfect or get it wrong, and I got it wrong. And I had San Jose beating Vegas. All 4 of those things did not happen. So, after 4 swings and 4 misses in the conference semifinals, that leaves me 6-6 overall for the playoffs. I do still have those 3 perfect series: Winnipeg beating Minnesota in 5, Washington beating Columbus in 6, and Boston beating Toronto in 7. Those were all from the first round, so I do still have 3 perfects. I'm 4-2 in the Eastern Conference, including those 2 perfect predictions of Washington and Boston, but I'm only 2-4 in the West, and 2 of those losses come by picking against Vegas. So, in proving that sometimes prognosticators can be just as superstitious as the athletes they attempt to prognosticate, we've changed the jersey. We're back to the green jersey from the black one, and we're going a little old school with the backwards hat. I'm trying to break this bad 0-4 voodoo that now suddenly hangs over my picks. So your Eastern Conference final is your 2 division champions, Atlantic number 1 Tampa Bay taking on Metropolitan number 1 Washington. Tampa Bay has home ice advantage based on having the better record in the regular season. Tampa Bay is 8-2 thus far in these playoffs. They've only dropped 2 games, 1 each to Boston and New Jersey, and they're a +10 in goal differential in those 10 games. Washington has played 2 extra games. They're 8-4. Their goal differential is +11. These teams only met 3 times in the regular season. Tampa Bay took 2 of those 3 games from Washington. One of Washington's losses did come in some extra time. Scoring in that series was 9-8 in favor of Tampa, so about as close as you can get. But that is where conversation on the regular season comes to an end. We're only going to talk about playoff leaders, playoff rankings, and then go right into the predictions. So, playoff leader for Tampa Bay, no shock here, it's Nikita Kucherov. Think about this, in 10 games, 6 goals and 12 points. So he's 1.2 points per game in 10 games so far for the Lightning. He's playing incredibly well, and playing just as well as he is Alex Ovechkin, who is, of course, leading the way for Washington. 8 goals and 15 points for Ovechkin so far in 12 games. This is a battle of 2 top 4 offenses so far in these playoffs. Washington, the number 1 offense in the playoffs so far. Tampa Bay sitting at number 4. On defense, you got number 4 versus number 6. Tampa Bay number 4. Washington number 6. But it is noteworthy, at number 6 so far in these playoffs in terms of goals against per game, the Washington Capitals are the lowest remaining team in terms of goals against per game. And if that doesn't prove the defense wins championships, nothing will. 2 top 4 power plays meeting in this series as well. Now, the number 1 power play in the playoffs so far is Boston. They are no longer around. So actually, Washington, with the number 2 power play, is the best power play remaining in these playoffs. Tampa Bay at number 4. Penalty kill story is a little bit different. It's number 10 versus number 8. And Tampa Bay's got the number 10, which actually means Washington basically has the edge in this series on special teams. They got the better power play, and they got the slightly better penalty kill. But Tampa Bay's number 10 penalty kill, not the worst remaining in the playoffs. I've made a big deal in these playoffs as well about shot generation and shot differential, generating more shots than you're allowing. Both of these teams currently sitting in the black in this category in terms of the results so far. Tampa Bay is generating 1.8 shots per game more than they're allowing. Washington generating 2.7 more than they're allowing, which is actually the tops of all the remaining playoff teams. When two teams predicated more on skill than grit meet, you tend to defer to the defense. That's certainly what I do. I think the team that wins the defensive battle in this series is going to be the team that ultimately wins the series. And I gotta go Tampa Bay. I've got a gut feeling about the Lightning. Also, I think between the likelihood of Tampa Bay winning a game in Washington and Washington winning a game in Tampa Bay, I'm going to defer to Tampa Bay because Tampa Bay head and shoulders the better road team from this regular season, and that's continued through the playoffs. So I got to go Tampa Bay here. Official prediction, I'm taking the Tampa Bay Lightning to beat the Washington Capitals, and I'm going to take them in 6 games. And I think that's going to come into play. I've got this series being a home team series through the first 5 games. And then in game 6 in Washington, I've got a great performance from Vasilevsky. Kucherov probably scoring the game-winning goal because, look, top-end scoring, sometimes you just can't deny it. I've got Tampa Bay winning that game 6 in Washington to go to the Stanley Cup final. Let's try to figure out who they're going to meet. Western Conference Final, you've got the Pacific Division champion Vegas Golden Knights taking on the number 2 team from the Central Division, the Winnipeg Jets, after that thrilling Game 7 victory in Nashville last night. Despite not being a division champion, Winnipeg is actually going to have home ice advantage in this series based on record from the regular season. The Jets are 8-4 so far in these playoffs with a goal differential of plus 15. That is the best goal differential of the 4 remaining teams in the playoffs. Vegas has played 2 fewer games. They're 8-2, coming off, of course, that sweep in the first round and then beating the Sharks in 6 last round. They have a goal differential of plus 12. So this is actually a battle of the 2 highest goal differential teams. They're meeting in the Western Conference Final. Season series between these two basically mirrored Tampa Bay and Washington. They played 3 games. Vegas won 2 of them. One of Winnipeg's losses was in overtime, a little extra hockey there. Scoring was 12-11 in favor of Vegas. So again, higher scoring than Tampa Bay, Washington, but it can't get any closer than that. Mark Scheifele has been an absolute monster for the Winnipeg Jets so far in these playoffs. 11 goals in 12 games. For Mark Scheifele. He also leads the way with 16 points for the Jets. And for the Vegas Golden Knights, you've got sort of the same thing that they did from the first round. The story, the name of the game for Vegas is balanced scoring. It's the island of misfit toys is what we'll call the Vegas Golden Knights here, but it's balanced scoring. They've got 3 players who are tied for the team lead with 4 goals, and they've got 2 players who are tied for the team lead in 11 points. So you're not looking at this one player taking over the game. It's much like what we saw from Nashville last year that led them to the Cup final. Winnipeg boasts the number 2 offense in the playoffs so far this playoff season. Vegas actually sitting at number 9, which means they are the lowest remaining offense, total offense, in these playoffs. Will that play a role? Battle of 2 top 3 total defenses as well. Vegas, the number 1 total defense remaining in the playoffs. So you know what their mantra has been. Low scoring games, building to win those 2-1 and 3-2 hockey games. Number 1 total defense. Winnipeg, no slouches, man, number 3. In terms of power play, look, it's an offensive category. Obviously, Winnipeg is going to have the edge. Jets have the number 5 power play in the playoffs so far. Vegas, number 10, the lowest remaining power play in these playoffs. But again, there's a give back. That number 5 power play is going to be facing the number 2 penalty kill, and the number 1 penalty kill is no longer in the playoffs. I believe that was Los Angeles. So Vegas at the number 2 penalty kill, the best remaining penalty kill in these playoffs. So you got a really good power play going up against a penalty kill that's been pretty darn dynamite. What Winnipeg does have to do, they've got to be disciplined. They can't let themselves kind of be drug into some undisciplined water like they were in the Nashville series. They can't let that happen because even though Vegas's power play has not been great, neither has their penalty kill. Shot differential is where we see the biggest gap in this series. Winnipeg plus 2.1, so they're generating 2.1 shots per game more than they're allowing. The Vegas Golden Knights are the only team remaining in these playoffs that are actually allowing more shots than they're generating. Negative 1.1. So that's not a giant gap, but it is about 3 shots a game. If Winnipeg can outshoot Vegas by 3-4 shots per game, that is a huge advantage for the number 2 offense in these playoffs. And it's funny, when I read that statistic and when I went through everything else, I'm thinking like, okay, is Vegas predicated on playing really good defense? Or is Marc-Andre Fleury just bailing them out? And then I went back, watched some video clips. I feel like Marc-Andre Fleury is just bailing them out. I think he's just playing incredible hockey. The longer the playoffs go, the harder it is to just ride a really good goaltender. Ask Jean-Sébastien Giguère that one year that he won the Conn Smythe, but they lost the Stanley Cup. It is incredibly difficult to depend so heavily on your goaltender. I'm a Montreal Canadiens fan. I know this firsthand. It's so difficult to only ride your goaltender because once your goaltender falters, and eventually they will, ask the Predators with Pekka Rinne, eventually your goaltender will falter. What do you then have behind them? And yeah, Vegas has generated some balanced scoring. They've been pretty good in that area, but is that enough? Official prediction for the Western Conference Final, I have the Winnipeg Jets beating the Vegas Golden Knights to go to the Stanley Cup Final, to do what Ottawa was unable to do last season and go to the Cup Final to meet Tampa Bay. I've got Winnipeg doing that in 7 games. And look, I think this is just a home team series. Neither one of these teams are tremendously good on the road. I would say Vegas maybe slightly better on the road, but I mean, Winnipeg is just an incredible home team. And you've got 2 of the best home team atmospheres. Most of the great home team atmospheres seem like they're in the Western Conference, but you got 2 of the best, Vegas and Winnipeg. It's going to be very difficult for either road team here to win a game, and I don't think any of them will. So it comes down to who's got home ice advantage. It's the Winnipeg Jets. I'm going to take Winnipeg in that game 7. Jets go to the Cup Final. And hey, if you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan and you're upset that I've picked against your team yet again, well, you've proven me wrong twice, so actually you should be pretty happy that I've bet against them, because the second I start betting with them, they're going to lose. All right, folks, that's going to do it. I'm predicting your Stanley Cup Final is going to be the Tampa Bay Lightning taking on the Winnipeg Jets. Who is your Stanley Cup Final? Who has impressed you the most up to this point? If you had to pick a Conn Smythe Trophy winner at this point, who would your Conn Smythe Trophy winner be? It's tough for me to lean away from Mark Scheifele. I mean, 11 goals in 12 games. That's pretty tremendous. I mean, Jake Gensel has made a great case with Pittsburgh, but I mean, Pittsburgh's not around anymore, so it's difficult to make that argument. Marc-Andre Fleury would be a great choice. Ovechkin would be a great choice. Kucherov would be a great choice. Who is your Conn Smythe Trophy front runner at this point? Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy the Eastern and Western Conference Finals. They get started tonight. The NHL, once again, not giving me any time to breathe here, but it gets started tonight. Enjoy the games. We'll see you again for the Cup Final prediction.